Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is...
Woody Guthrie, The Ballad of Tom Joad.
I feel like we heard...
This is for the big homie Revo. I know, I felt like we did this before, but it wasn't. It was another...
It was about the boat. The Ballad of something. It was about a boat, right?
Yeah.
All right. If you... Shout out to the big homie Revo, who's been... He's got to be the most eclectic...
I didn't even know what is that
village
mean?
like it's not just one thing. You could do the K-pop.
Oh,
you could do Sonic Youth. You could do you never know what
surprises everywhere, right?
You never know what the home.
I never know what's gonna happen when I click on his list.
Right.
People are like, "What's his list?" Never mind.
None of your freaking business. So if you, dear listener, would like to be like Revo, it's very simple. 125 gets you straight to the head of the line, and you can determine what song specifically you want to use. If you do that 3 times, you get knocked down to the $75 rate for all perpetuity. What are you paying for?
When you do the 125 and you do your own like filthy capitalist way, you get the secret email. So if you don't have it, ask for it and I'll give it to you. If you have the secret email, send me an email to the secret email and ask me what the new secret email is, because I've created a new one. So, secret emails for everybody. All the filthy capitalists unite.
Okay. Okay. So you could do it that way, or you could do the community option, which is my favorite. $1 to gets you in that Patreon. Shout out to all our Patreon members. I'm going to be shooting some exclusive videos for y'all pretty soon here, because I shot one exclusive video and everybody thought that we were ending the channel, and I was getting all these texts from some of our close friends in the channel. They're like, "Oh my God."
No, it's over.
So
I've
got to do more those videos.
You also need to be more clear. You always brag about how great you are with communication. Well,
the one time I do something on Patreon,
I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying it.
All right. So the Ballad of Tom Joad, which is that's you didn't get to finish. That name is familiar to you, right?
It is. Oh, is it
your
the book?
Yeah, it's your book, Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Let's see it.
This better not be a spoiler. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this sounds like the soundtrack to Grapes of Wrath.
Tom Joad got out of the old McAllister pen. There he got his parole. After 4 long years on a man-killing charge, Tom Joad come a-walking down the road. Poor boy, Tom Joad come a-walking down the road. Tom Joad, he met a truck-driving man. There he caught him a ride. He said, "I just got loose from McAllister pen on a charge called homicide. A charge called homicide." That truck rolled away in a cloud of dust. Tommy turned his face toward home. He met Preacher Casey and they had a little drink.
There is gonna be spoilers.
Found that his family, they was gone. He found that his family, they was gone. He found his mother's old-fashioned shoe, found his daddy's hat, and he found little Muley, and Muley said, "They've been tractored out by the cats. They've been tractored out by the cats."
There's a cool line in that part of the book.
Tom Joad walked down to the neighbor's farm, found his family. They took Preacher Casey and loaded in a car, and his mother said, "We've got to get away." His mother said, "We've got to get away." Now the 12 of the Joads made a mighty heavy load, but Grandpa Joad did cry. He picked up a handful of land in his hand, said, "I'm staying with the farm till I die. Yes, I'm staying with the farm till I die." They fed him short ribs and coffee and soothing syrup, and Grandpa Joad did die. They buried Grandpa Joad by the side of the road, Grandma on the California side. They buried Grandma on the California side. They stood on a mountain and they looked to the west, and it looked like the promised land. That bright green valley with a river running through, there was work for every single hand. They thought there was work for every single hand.
I think that's where they flipped the cassette.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
The Joads rode away to the jungle camp. There they cooked a stew, and the hungry little kids of the jungle camp said, we'd like to have some too. Said, we'd like to have some too. Now a deputy sure fired loose at a man, shot
Yikes.
a woman in the back. Before he could take his aim again, Preacher Casey dropped him in his track, poor boy.
Oh no,
Preacher
poor
Casey
preacher.
dropped him in his track.
Oh.
They handcuffed Casey and they took him to jail.
Oh.
And then he got away, and he met Tom Joad on the old river bridge, and these few words he did say, poor boy, these few words he did say. I preached for the Lord a mighty long time, preached about the rich and the poor. Us working folks is all get together 'cause we ain't got a chance anymore. We ain't got a chance anymore. Now the deputies come and Tom and Casey run to the bridge where the water run down. But the vigilante thugs hit Casey with a club. They laid Preacher Casey on the ground, poor Casey. They laid Preacher Casey on the ground.
He died?
Tom Joad, he grabbed that deputy's club, hit him over the head. Tom Joad took flight in the dark, rainy night, and a deputy and a
Oh my
preacher lying
gosh!
dead. 2 men, a deputy and a preacher lying dead.
There are spoilers.
Tom run back where his mother was asleep. He woke her up out of bed, and he kissed goodbye to the mother that he loved. Said what Preacher Casey said, Tom Joad. He said what Preacher Casey said. Everybody might be just one big soul. Well, it looks that way to me.
Oh my gosh.
Everywhere that you look in the day or night, that's where I'm a-gonna be, Ma. That's where I'm a-gonna be. Wherever little children are hungry and cry, wherever people ain't free, wherever men are fighting for their rights, that's where I'm a-gonna be, Ma. That's where I'm a-gonna be.
Oh. That's the whole story.
No, they left out a couple things, but that's Jim Casey.
Wow.
Was where, remember I tell you that my literature teacher was teaching us about Christ figures?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It was this book.
Yeah.
And,
I can see that.
And Jim Casey. She said, you knew he was going to die right from the beginning once you heard his name. I was like, well, we were like, what are you talking about? And then she started explaining Christ figures in literature and all that.
Oh, because it's Jim Casey, yeah.
And then she was like, well, I mean, there's a big one in, Terminator. You know, the Terminator? Mm-hmm. The guy's name is John Connor. You know, and so Neo is a Christ figure, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. So, what's really interesting about this book is, like, the American classic. Like, I can't really think of another book that as regards literature, that is a bigger, American classic than this book.
I'm telling you what, I'm gonna do so much reading when I get older. Like right now, there's no time to read. There's no time for that like calmness. I want calmness with the reading, and you can't read and chase kids all over the place and all that. I'd love to be like just sitting outside on one of those swings. Breeze is going, the sun is out, and reading a book. And knowing that you don't have anything else to do but read the book. Because it's hard to relax when you know you have a billion other things to do. So like supper's already in the crock pot and you're sitting down with the book. Yeah, I'd really like that. There was a part where, where he talked about the tractors, that the tractors had like run them all off the land.
Yeah.
At that point in the book, there was a really cool, I can't quote it word for word, but it was basically like everybody was getting kicked off their land. The tractors were coming up, tearing everything out. Like people were losing their jobs because the tractors could do so much work that they didn't need the people anymore. And so like the fathers were like really, really, really stressed out, and they were standing there, and the mothers were watching the fathers to see like, did he lose hope or is he going to keep going? And the kids were watching the mothers while they watched the fathers. Like everybody was on edge to see what, and then like all of a sudden like the father got like this hardened look on his face, like he knew what he was going to do next. And then the mother, you could kind of like, okay. And then the kids relaxed. Like everybody was like eyeing the dad, like what's going to happen next?
Yeah, a lot of pressure on dudes during that period.
Holy moly, yeah. You can't just roll up and do Amazon or something.
There's a lot of pressure. See, this is one of the things that gets lost in the whole, like... And I'm very sympathetic to feminism for sure. But that's one of the things where it's like, we've progressed now as this... And this book is... There's so many things I want to say. This could be like a 9-hour review, but... Don't
give more away than I already have.
Well, no, but I mean, even here, if you look at the lyrics for a second, like, for example, this is Casey speaking. I preached for the Lord a mighty long time, preached about the rich and the poor. Us working folks is all get together.
Yeah.
That's Marx.
Oh, yeah.
Marx ended the Communist Manifesto by saying, workers of the world unite.
Oh.
Us working folks is all get together.
Do you notice how people will like put everything together so be like, this is a Marxist book. Revo, you are because you picked this up.
Yeah, you're a Marxist. but my point is, it's like, if this book came out today...
Oh, yeah.
Instead of this being like required reading, I mean, it wasn't required reading in Truman High School. Only the elites got to, I got put in, shout out to my English
AP
teacher.
English.
I got put in AP English, so... But it's a complete, tome against capitalism.
Yeah.
And it's got Marxist themes in it, and especially, and even with the way that the police are portrayed, the authorities are kind of like the military wing of the capitalist machine in this universe.
Yeah.
And there's even some like racial reconciliation stuff at the end where it's like
he's going to be wherever their people were looking for freedoms.
Well, yeah, but you'll see it. You'll see it at the end. It's a very very controversial end actually for especially set in the modern day on both sides. But it's just mind-boggling to me, like knowing what I know now. And a lot of it due to people in the channel like Zonia and BM Fan, like this is Marxist ideology, and yet this is known as like the great American classic work. Like this is like the Bible of American literature. And so it's just it's hilarious to me that all these like, I want to be careful because we've got some people in the channel, but like these like cultural Marxism, blah blah blah, like the demonization of all of Marxist principles, like is crazy to me. It's like, right. I'm certain Steinbeck must have been a socialist, like, because now that I think about the book and think about the things that he's saying, like, this is a complete, like, this is explicit. You know, us working folks is all get together.
Yeah.
That's Marx. Workers of the world unite. That's where the fist came from. So it's mind-boggling, you know. And then he grabbed the deputies club and hits him over the head with it, you know, because
he uses his own
the
weapon
police,
against it.
right? The police force here are the executors of, you know, the capitalist wins of the sort of ethereal bad guy in the book that really never. Like
they call them vigilante thugs.
Right. Thugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost prophetic. It's an amazing thing to behold when you look at our current situation and how arrogantly, you know, I was talking to somebody, they were talking about how Biden's a socialist. I was like, come on, Jenna, like, are you kidding me? Like, what do you mean Biden's a socialist? Biden's more of a capitalist than you are!
Yeah.
But like, I'm, you know, all these, like, young, like, late 20s, you know, people in our generation, early, like, talking about stuff that they clearly have no historical context for, but they just watched Ben Shapiro for half an hour, and all of a sudden now they understand cultural Marxism and blah, 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 and how horrible and dangerous it is, and yada, 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 while simultaneously saying a book like this is an American classic. It reminds me of, like, I forgot who it was, but they're like, oh, I guess Rage Against the Machine is a woke band now. It's like, okay. Who knew? Who knew?
Well, it's interesting because you were just watching this documentary type thing on, like, what type of...
A Shaolin Temple.
Yeah, but the different movements that they were doing. What is that stuff called? It was like
the forms.
I don't want to say...
Yeah,
but anyway,
Kung Fu,
he was saying,
forms.
like, people... It sounds funny to say, like, Kung Fu. It sounds like it could be, like... You know, like, sometimes people say a word and it's not what it's actually called.
Yeah.
So, anyway... He was saying that people will, like, show up to the temple and they'll be like, I want to learn this. And he's like, why don't you just master the basics, man?
Right.
Like, and that's, I think our culture has adopted this way of thinking that you can be experts at everything. Like, there's so many people walking around thinking they're experts at everything because they watched a little YouTube video or, you know.
Yeah.
Or they reacted to some metal and now all of a sudden there's some music.
Some metal connoisseur starting bands and shit. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's really interesting because he made the Christ figure. You know, the Jim Casey Christ figure was an extremely flawed man. But, you know, as we would talk about it, you know, we took that as, you know, that's how we would do, like, tests and stuff. We would come to just, like, class consensus, and that was the test, and everybody got an A. Like, that's how we did school. It was unbelievable. Because all of us were, you know, self-contained and, you know, intelligent already or whatever. So we all read the book in our own time, and then we all had our ideas or whatever, and then we were all, that was the entire class. We would just talk about the chapter that we read or the meaning of whatever, and then we all got an A. But it wasn't one of those things where it's like you had the one smart person and everybody was writing the smart person. Everybody was smart and everybody had their own ideas. It was probably the best school experience I've ever had, to be honest with you.
It had to have been because it's the one you talk about the most.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's really interesting, like when you get into these like little groups, like the gateway of entry is kind of like impossible, but once you get into it and everybody's gone through that impossible thing, then everything is just so much easier for those people than other people, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. But anyway, so we were talking about it, and the Casey figure was so interesting to me because I was a Christian, but I was very much like this guy. Like I identified like deep down internally as a Christian.
I can see that, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, like the way he's introduced in the story, like he's knocking out some girls in the, you know, whatever. And
I was going to say, back when I said that this is the thing you talk about the most is AP English. I was going to say that and the girls, but I held off, and then boom, you went into it. Go ahead.
I've only talked to about the girls like one time. You keep bringing it up.
Okay.
I'm not the one that talks about it. I don't bring it up.
Okay.
You keep bringing it up.
Okay.
But anyway, the Casey figure was so interesting because I think he presented a Christianity that was actually on the side of the little guy.
Oh, absolutely.
So Casey was imperfect. He was
I haven't
imperfect
gotten
and he
far
had
enough into it for it to be like to show that he was actually like at the beginning. It seems kind of like he's probably not anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I think that as it progresses, you get to see that. So I haven't gotten to that. I never got to that point.
Yeah, he was a very, very compelling character to me. He was very, very compelling. But it presented a Christianity that was like for the little guy. And you can see that in the lyrics of the song, like especially toward the end. You know, like that was a crazy, you know, because we can't get a... We ain't got a chance anymore. We ain't got a chance anymore. So us working folks have to come together, you know. And then Tom Joad takes over Casey's role when he dies, and that's kind of like the evolution of Joad's character. So, you know, everybody might be just one big soul. Well, it looks that way to me.
I loved that idea.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna be. That's
you
where
know
I'm
what?
gonna be.
If that's true. Which actually I kind of think it might be. The idea that everyone creates one big giant soul, especially when you think of like the body becomes she's the bride of Christ, blah blah blah. So if that's true, then that makes sense. You know how people will be like, "Oh, my grandmother died or somebody died, but I still feel them."
Well, yeah, and you see it right there, right? Like, because the last two stanzas of the song are Joad quoting Casey. So this is Joad. So wherever little children are hungry and cry, wherever people ain't free, wherever men are fighting for their rights, that's where I'm gonna be. That's Tom Joad quoting, but he's quoting Casey.
Right.
And Casey is the Christ figure. So Steinbeck is saying that Christ is in the midst of hungry children, crying people, people ain't free.
True.
But what he's saying is I was on a conversation yesterday with one of my friends, shout out to Mikey. He's basically saying Christ is a socialist. Right? Which, look, I'm not going to go as far as saying Christ is a socialist, because I think it's ultimately blasphemous to attach Jesus to any sort of economic or social or political system. But he is definitely not this ruthless capitalism that we've seen that has grinded millions and millions of people in its teeth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And has absolutely no compassion for anyone.
There's some of both with him, you know what I mean? Like, there's elements of Christianity and elements of the teaching of Christ that you could say, he's a socialist. And then there's other elements that you could look at and you'd be like, he's a capitalist.
Who, Jesus?
Jesus. But when you put it all together...
What teaching of Christ could you see where they'd be like, oh, he's a capitalist?
You don't work, you don't eat.
Well, a socialist would say that too.
Would?
Socialist isn't saying like, I mean, think even in this story, right? Steinbeck is a socialist.
Well, then Jesus' teachings are more socialist.
Look, there was work for every single hand. There was work for every single hand. So they believed in work, right? The main issue for these guys was that the payment wasn't enough for them to live on. Because you had all these new innovations in the technology with the tractor and things like that took away their jobs and left them with nothing. Which is, again, laissez-faire capitalism. There is no safety net in laissez-faire capitalism. Like you're in or you're out, period. Yeah. So, like that's a stereotype that, you know, capitalists want to point out. Like, oh, if you're a socialist, you don't believe people should work. What? Huh? No, like it's workers of the world unite. That's the entire point, is that the work, you know, and the workers on the means of production, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in all of, I think one of the holes in Marxism and socialism in general is to say, what is the reward of a person that's taking all the economic risk to open a business? We've opened multiple businesses and we've had to front all of the money, and we had no safety net. Like, if the thing didn't work, we were screwed, right? So it's like, we had to take all the risk, and our family is big enough to where all of our employees are in our family, right? So, you know, we were just talking about it yesterday at the business meeting, like, the average person who's doing this other thing that we're doing, which we will we will launch at some point for you guys. It's really, really cool stuff. But I was explaining to the kids, like, look, regular guy gets a 9 to 5, blah, blah, blah. He comes home and he goes down into his basement and does all this shit by himself.
And the other thing, too, that I think is like, whoa, some people start out a small business and they really don't know if they're going to succeed or they're going to fail. Like, I know we're going to succeed. Like, I know we're going to. But there are some people that don't have that. Like, there's always, like, elements of, like, taking a chance. But, like, the team that we have is, like, it's stacked. So I think, you know, we're gonna be able to succeed at this. It's a lot of work and it's hard and it's discouraging at times, but we're gonna keep going and we're gonna do it.
You're saying, you know, we're going to be successful because we've kind of proven ourselves to ourselves in the last 8 years. We've done things that are really, really hard, and we've been successful at them in places where literally it's documented.
Such a tiny percentage
of the hardest place to accomplish X thing. We did it. It was mostly me and you. We did it. That stood it up. So, like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but technically speaking, we're still fronting all the risk.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
We are.
We still went out and spent the money.
We are.
And so that's where I'm kind of like, okay, you have to account for that. Right? You can't just say, oh, we're going to have all the, the employees on the means of production. Like, I think that's a crazy overcorrection because the employees did not initiate that risk and they didn't spend the 12 to 14 hour days to stand up the company to get it to the point where it was solvent enough.
Even with our own kids, I'm like, babe, like, we started this whole thing. Like, yes, they can take a portion, but like, hello, this is ours. We're the ones that did assume the entire risk. Like,
I'll tell you what. Shout out to BM Fan. There was a fireside where this really was this. I'm telling you, this changed a lot for me. It was a conversation with BM Fan, and we were talking about like the workers owning the means of production, and we were going back and forth. And we were talking about the island, right? I said, BM Fan, we get stuck on an island, right? And you and your girlfriend are on the beach playing tic-tac-toe while I'm out there hunting and getting the oranges.
Yep.
Man, y'all ain't getting shit from me, bro. Because I'm doing all the work and I'm risking getting bitten by one of these cobras or whatever.
Right.
And you and your girl are on there on the beach just playing tic-tac-toe. Y'all gonna starve. I don't care, right? And so we were going back and forth on that, and I'm like, BM Fan. He's like, oh, work for your employees. You would be shit, blah, blah, blah. And finally, it just dawned on me where I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a company where all my employees are my family. I'm going to keep it all within my family because I'm working for my kids anyway. Because I'll be damned if I let somebody from the outside take my company or the work that me and you have put in to take food off of my kids' plate. Like, hell no. So then, after that conversation, I was like, well, shit, what if X and Y thing gets so big where we need people, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, you know what? I'm going straight nepotism. Like, if you're in my family, you have a job. So, like, Dory signs his email operations manager. And you know what? It's kind of funny.
Oh, my word. It was so cute today. So, I'm interrupting here. I was on my computer, and I'm working, and he's in the kitchen working, and, like, in between what I was doing on the computer, I was getting up and I was doing some cooking, and then I was going back and feed the baby and like kind of like managing a bunch of things all at the same time. So he's sitting there with his computer. I see him just looking over there, just perfectly still, just looking at me. And I looked at him, I said, yes. And he said, I really like our family working together. It was so cute. He looked so happy with it and so content. It was so cute.
Yeah.
Because he was working on his little emails. I say little because he's still a kid, you know what I mean? But he does very good on his emails.
Yeah, but
they're very mature.
All those suppressions are gone, and he's just re-uploading the SKUs.
It's done now. You got him.
Well, there's none left. So all he has to do is now re-upload them. Like if you look at
good.
Yeah. So like he is. I mean, it's the big three. It's me, you, and him as far as like running the thing. But everybody's absolutely involved and is doing a damn good job. But to me, I was like, after talking to PM, I was like, wait a second. No, I'm going to make this. This is going to be.
Keeping all this in the family.
Yeah, and that's when I really like angled toward.
Yeah.
Because before I was like, all right, gonna get some money and leave an inheritance to the kids or whatever. But like after that, I was like, you know what? No. Like,
Like-
we're just going to make this a family enterprise, period.
I'm not sure if I agree with you, and maybe we'd have to have more discussion about it, because I guess my future thoughts for it was, yeah, absolutely employ our family, but I would love it if this thing would get so big, like, that we could employ other people. And remember when Gary Vee was saying, like, I want to pay my employees enough so that they can go out to dinner.
Oh, yeah.
They can,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I would love to be able to, like, make enough where we could employ people and give them, you know, I don't think you and I will employ, because I think we're going to probably be, like, retired, but our kids could employ people and pay them well, you know.
Well,
I think by the time it gets big like that, like,
I mean, we're never going to have a
I'm going to be
family...
floating on a yacht.
We're never going to have a family big enough to where, you know...
A family big enough to what?
They can cover all of it. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends. Like, I definitely see Dorian growing the
6
business.
kids right now.
I can definitely see Dorian growing the business.
I think that
where-
you have to have pieces of it, because, you know, like, families don't always work good together. You know what I mean? Like, Zoe
Yeah, but-
marries somebody and he's gonna work with Dorian. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, our family's an
F your brother.
our family's an institution, though. Like, it's going to be one of those things where, like, unless you get approved by the family, it's probably not going to work out.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like,
Maybe.
I don't
I
see it
don't
happening.
know. You might be surprised. I feel like Zoe might make her own decision.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it just, some families kind of work out that way. But yeah, but my point is, like, I was like, holy shit, because I had this like nightmare landscape to where, like, you know, some politician gets in and then our family, our business that we were grinding in and blood, sweat, and tears gets, you know, whatever.
Swiped away by this.
Swiped away by some
the
punk,
man.
by some 14-year-old kid playing video games all day, saying that we need
so annoying.
to finance his bullshit. It was part of the discussion.
No.
Even Ben Webb was like, "Holy shit, this BM fan's crazy." So, like, shout out to the homie BM fan, because he simultaneously turned me into a socialist and then, like, a maniacal capitalist at this in one fell swoop.
Who would have thought?
Thank you.
That it was possible.
It definitely it provided. That was the night when I got really, really serious. I'm like, okay, this has to be a family business. Period. Like, we need to cycle all the money within our little ecosystem and yada yada yada, and it's worked very well. Thank you very much, BM fan. I appreciate it. But holy shit. But I had a friend who was a you know, socialist, whatever, and then and I was like a hardcore capitalist at the time, and I was using all the capitalist talking points. And then I met him again after like 10 years, and it's funny because we'd flipped. So he had become he had become like this hyper capitalist, personal responsibility guy, you know, and
Do I know this person?
Nah, you don't know. He became like this, and I was kind of like, I kind of saw what you were saying 10 years ago. He was like, I was an idiot 10 years ago. Like,
People change.
whatever. All right, so having said that, I give the song, I thoroughly disenjoyed the song. I don't like that type of music.
It's just perfect. It captures the feel of the book. I loved it. I loved it.
It definitely was like the soundtrack to the book / movie. So I'm going to give it
There's a movie?
Yeah. I don't think
you
they
don't
did
like the movie, right?
Well, she showed us the final scene.
Yeah.
And that was powerful. We never watched the movie. We would just read a chapter or 2 or 3, and then we would talk about it in class. And then the movie clip at the very, very end was the last thing we saw. I'm going to give it a 9.2.
It's an 11 for me.
Holy moly!
I loved it.
All right.
And for me, like, I'm not going to listen to that music all the time, but that to me is like, you've got the windows open, the breeze is coming through, I'm doing something I enjoy, whether it's the reading of the book or I'm baking something, but the house is quiet. Like, maybe all the kids are gone, but they're coming back in like a couple of hours. So I know I'm going to get to see my little bambino soon, but at the same time, I'm able to get something done in the quiet. I have no socks or shoes on. Shh, don't tell anyone. I do like to cook that way. Anyway, 11 for me. Thanks, Revo. Another great pick.
Yeah,
actually a totally different pick than the usual.
Yeah. This is not the standard Revo pick at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
Villagers, the NCAA college basketball tournament is right around the corner. We're doing a March Madness contest for our village to raise funds for other villagers in need. It only costs $1 to participate, and you'll have the option, if you want to donate a little extra. The way it works is you go to ESPN.com and fill out a bracket with the teams that you think are likely to win each game. Whoever wins our contest will get to pick a song for Vin and Sori to react to. So that song you've always wanted them to do, you can now get it done for as little as $1 if you win the contest. There will be a link in the description to this website that will take you to a PayPal site. From there, you make your donation and you'll get an email back with instructions on where to join the group and the password so that you can join. Now, if you're asking, I'm not a big college basketball junkie, I don't know what's going to happen, that's okay. There's all kinds of information on the website that will show you what the experts are predicting, statistics on each team, and even trends as far as what everybody else is voting on. So you'll fill out your bracket. You can start doing that on March 14th, and you'll have until the games begin on the 19th to complete your bracket. You can join the group at any time, but those are the dates that you can actually fill your bracket out. If you have any questions, send those to vinandsorimarchmadness@gmail.com, and I look forward to seeing you guys there.